With lockdown restrictions being lifted and not a great deal of opportunity to go fishing the last 18 months or so, what a great way to kick things off this year than a group of us in the office going on a mad road trip together.
Alan, Ollie, Henry and I are going to be visiting 6 venues or so across the next week, which will see us visiting everything from canals,
intimate pools, day tickets, exclusive bookings. We're going to be fishing for big fish, small fish, scaly ones, plain ones, pretty much whatever's in front of us.
Today we're heading up to Billingford Lakes in Norfolk to break up the drive more than anything, have a nice relaxed, chilled evening before heading on up to
Lincolnshire. We'll then head into Stickney Brick Pit for an exclusive lake booking, a great way to kick things off.
Next up, we're playing a day ticket game, heading to Elson's Lake on the Stanwick Fishery Complex, and we're going to slot in where we can with no privileges.
From there, it's a quick trek across country to a beautiful little pit in Cambridgeshire. Bit of me this one, bit of stalking, bit of floater fishing, hopefully a chance for a big one.
Moving on, we'll be shooting across to Hertfordshire for a quick night on a quiet stretch of the English Canal. We'll even stop in for a roast if we've got enough time. After that, we're going to go on down
to a commercial complex called Newdigate Farm, where we'll be getting those pearl barrows out and chasing them around.
Before ending it all on a beautiful syndicate lake down in East Sussex, big socials, rolling hills, and maybe, just maybe, the chance of a big carp. That's 10 days away though, so for now,
let's get going for a well-deserved road trip.
Setting off in the early evening, we made our way from the offices up through East Anglia to our first destination, Billingford Lakes, a stunning complex in the Norfolk countryside. This would be more of a stopover and a first night social than anything, splitting the journey up to Lincolnshire before the road trip properly began the next day.
So we've just arrived at the first venue of the 10-day session here at Billingsford Lakes. Lovely place. Just drove in through a complex of lakes. It's a magical place. We're on Lake 10, which is also known as the John Wilson Lake, I think. Really tiny little lake. I know nothing about it, absolutely nothing. But I've just seen one show. I can see Al over the other side already moving his rods. I think he's in the same thing. But I don't think it's an easy lake. But we're just going to spend the night here. We're going to set up base camp. We're going to have a nice barbecue, chill out. Any fish we catch tonight is a bonus, but at least we've got the rods out. And then tomorrow is when we really get started.
That'll do, won't it? That'll do. Oh my god.
cool, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not just saying it, but that's the best fish you've ever caught.
Probably. Well, I can never really relax and chill out on a session until I have my first fish, and I wasn't expecting to catch one last night. Very low stock lake, so I was a bit surprised when my rod pulled up down to my fat lead last night, and even more surprised when this turned up. What a fish! As Dan's just said to me, probably one of the nicest carp I've ever caught. I'd have to agree with him on that. Little scovett's a good pop-up. tiny, tiny handful of bait. And look at that. That is a sick carp.
And to think, John Wilson might have caught it.
That is really cool. That is a special carp.
You can go home now.
Yeah.
Well,
Pressure's on you, boys.
Here, mate. You're on for a win of this session. You catch one.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's a good way to start it. That is cool, man. So cool.
All buzzing that Henry managed such an unexpected and amazing carp, we wasted no time packing up and hitting the road early to head to our next destination, Stickney Brick Pit, a 2-hour drive away up into Lincolnshire.
Okay, so we're here at Stickney Brick Pit and it's a beautiful lake, really impressed. We're just having a quick walk round, decided to divvy the lake up into 4 sections, so we're going to have a quick look, see where we fancy, head back round to the cars, have a draw and choose our swims.
Just press it, you stop it.
We've got the wheel of
Fortune.
Wheel of Fortune.
exciting.
I hope you win.
Right, you meant to do, don't jinx it.
I'm going to tap it. Are you ready?
Go on.
Go on, then. Where's the arrow on the right? Oh, Henry's out.
Yes, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'll go in 1.
What's 1?
So
Picnic 1.
Just this side?
Yeah. I'll take that. Sweet.
So Henry, you are fishing the big tree.
No.
Oh, you want to go?
No,
2.
two,
So you're
sorry,
going 2.
two, yeah.
Henry's 2.
Two.
Okay, cool.
I've changed colour. It's Alan!
Oh,
Alan. And Alan Blair, your choice is?
Number 3. If we hadn't seen that show, it would have been 1. I would have called 1.
Yeah.
But that massive vortex
Yeah.
and well, he's good now. Here we go. Here we go, boys.
Sorry, Al. Sorry, mate. Number 1, please.
We headed off to our areas of the lake, eager for the first proper day's fishing of the trip. Alf and I both shared a peninsula on the southern bank, with my area covering a lot of open water as well as a large margin. Looking down from a tree, I could see a few carp cruising high in the water column, so I opted for adjustable zigs topped off with maggots and worms, fish between 1 to 3 feet underneath the surface, poling them out for minimal disturbance.
Just clean gravel there, man. Easy trap. Like, I thought I was going to have to come right close to the edge, but I'm not going to have to. Well, you can see what's down there. There's like big bricks, but actually just at the bottom of this shelf, it's clean and smooth, hard, fed on. That's it. That's all the cast I need to make. It's pole time.
Well, the first thing I did after that result was grab a beer, but I think I did overreact, to be honest. No one likes coming out the draw last. If I get in a negative frame of mind now, that's going to do me no favours. So I'll work with what I've got in front of me, keep my eyes on the water. None of us have actually seen a lot, well, as far as I'm aware anyway. It is sort of in the back channels, you know, and the sun's out at the minute, although we've got really cold weather for this time of year. That warm temperature, it could warm up quicker, so I'm going to keep my eyes on the water. See if there are any fish moving, stay quiet, and hopefully the others will push them into this area of the lake. But yeah, positive thinking, I'm going to catch one.
So I've got lucky for once and got first choice, and I went in a swim that I don't think everyone would have chosen as their first choice. Not loads of water, but loads of different depths of water, and I think with this changing weather it means I've always got a chance of the fish being somewhere. I really like this stock pond. Nice and shallow, this old stock pond. Got a nice bit of bar, got a few deep areas, so yeah, let's get cracking. I'm looking forward to it. I'm feeling hopeful, I'm feeling good. Unlike Alf, I don't think he's feeling too happy with his choice, but work as a team. I'm sure we're going to get a few out between the four of us. Okay, so I'm going to drop my first rod in that little inlet just there around that bush, just on the edge of what my limit is, based off of what all of us boys sort of agreed were our limits of our water. It's about 8-9 foot, nice and deep, cuts away very, very quickly. I think it looks very good for a bite. We've not seen many fish on the drones. I think there's a very good chance they're in that deeper water, and that looks like a perfect spot for a bite. Using the baiting pole, I dropped a white scopex squid pop-up and a handful of flake and sweet corn across to the edge of the reeds on the far margin. I must have dropped it right on their heads because I had a take in a matter of minutes. You may be wondering how I've got in this situation. I'm wondering that also. He got snagged, I was about to jump in and try and save it, but he swam out. Ooh, nice little scaly one. Definitely wasn't worth getting wet for. Want to get the net? That is number 2 of the trip caught in my pants. What a result. It's a numbers game. Well, after a fairly hectic battle, you could say, one of Stickney Britpit's newest residents in my net, this cool little high-backed linear that one day I think will be an absolute monster, judging from its frame. For now, just a little baby. Not quite what we're after, but very, very welcome. First one from the lake. Slipping back, get something a little bit bigger.
Having had no luck in the night, I decided to move swims and managed to find a few carp near the surface in the snags. Without having an idea of the lake bed, I opted to quietly ship out a solid bag, dropping it within a few feet of where I'd seen them, and about 30 minutes later, I was into one of Stickney's newer residents.
Hey, got a bubba, and I was just having a little afternoon siesta, and that rod tore off. Well, this morning's endeavour didn't exactly go to plan. Ended up spending 2 or 3 hours or so along that snaggy margin, which I mentioned yesterday, where there's actually the only place I've definitely seen carp, just sort of swimming around really slowly underneath it. But even though it's really early in the trip, I was feeling a little bit shattered, so I went for an afternoon siesta. I was only going to close my eyes for an hour or so, so I flicked a little solid PVA bag down the edge, close to some, again, sort of snaggy looking area. Half hour later, the rod was away, and one of the stockies, but I'm not going to complain. First fish of the trip, gives you that little bit of confidence, so I want to get the rod back out, and you never know. We've got till tomorrow morning. Let's see if one of the big girls turns up.
After Alfie's fish in the morning, despite our best efforts, the day passed by without any action. Nonetheless, we enjoyed a social evening around the fire, remaining positive with several days of fishing still ahead of us.
Oli, do you want a pepperoni?
Yes, please. Top.
It was another freezing night, and when the sun rose in the morning, we were greeted once again by empty nets. We packed up early, but just before we set off to our next venue, Oli managed a last-minute bite on one of his rods, dropped tight up against that far margin.
Something there, or?
I just went to pick the rod up and it just tightened, just twitched. Luckily I was stood right by it because I was fishing right to that snag there, and there's one on the end. Well, a little blank saving common for me. Real last gasp on this. I was literally down to the rods to pack up, and the middle one tightened up, and luckily managed to keep him out of the snag as I was stood right by it. So a nice little common to finish our visit to Lincolnshire and Stickney Brick Pit. That's us packed away now, and we're off to Elson's Lake.
We left Stickney, travelling down from Lincolnshire about 2 hours to the popular day ticket fishery Stanwick Lakes near Wellingborough. Although the complex has several lakes, we wanted to focus mainly on Elson's Lake, a beautiful mature gravel pit with a good stock of stunning carp. Arriving in the early afternoon, we grabbed our buckets and headed to see what swims were available and discuss where we each wanted to fish.
That's what we walked about.
Well, here we are, Stanwick Fisheries, Elson Lakes. Never been here before, heard so much about it over the years. I've jumped into pretty much his first swim here. Ollie's to my right, Alfie's a bit further up the bank to my left. Why have I jumped in here? There's a great margin down to my right. It's the same sort of area of water that Ollie will fish, but it also gives me a large expanse to look at, the sort of main bowl of water. I just want to have a little look down this margin in the waders, maybe put a little bit of bait in, and just have a few casts out here just to see what sort of depths it is. It's always a great feeling when you're out filming, or fishing in general, to get that first one under your belt, and I'm not at that point yet, so I would like to try and nick a bite before dark, and that'll put a big smile on my face and allow me to get my rods out on this incredible Elson's Lake and try for a real good one through the night.
After spending a couple of hours watching the main body of the lake, I decided to head to where I could see a few fish occasionally showing near the opposite bank.
Oh yeah, I can see them just under the surface now. So it's so close in, like 15 yards. But all I'm going to do, I think, is just flick a couple of zigs because they're right under the surface, just 15 yards out, and just sit on it for a bit. Keep well quiet though, see what happens. 4 foot, I reckon. Go for a 3, 3 and 4 and 5. This little 4 footer is going to be somewhere near the surface.
Okay, so it's a beautiful evening. I'm all set up, enjoying the sunshine. I'm fishing in a really nice, quiet corner. Just the type of swim I was hoping that I'd get here, really, to be honest. There's a big snag opposite me, and I've been up the tree, and there are a couple of fish moving in and out of it. So, number one location is sorted. Getting the rods out was pretty easy. I've been using the baiting pole all week at quite extreme ranges, but today it was quite short, just about 28 metres over to the tree line there. Really easy to drop my baits. I'd actually been up the tree and I'd sized up a couple of areas that I can see were clear. You know, there's a little bit of weed out here on the bottom, but the areas off the edge of the snag are obviously well fished, and you can see that the bottom's quite clear. So I'm quite happy that I've got 2 rigs really nicely presented on the edge of the tree line there where the fish are moving in and out. There's also been a bit of activity in open water as well. There's been a bit of fizzing, and a couple of fish have jumped. So I think as they're coming in and out of the snag, they're flanking on the bottom and sending up these fizzes. And the water's quite shallow, so I've just chucked a choddy out there, maybe just to intercept them as they're coming in and out. There's a chance that they might pick up a single hook bait. So I think I've got this corner pretty well covered. So rig-wise, I'm using my favourite multi-rig, but I've swapped my usual citrus pop-up over for a Scopex squid one. I just wanted something a little bit less blatant. Bait choice, I'm actually using a little bit of particle. I'm using tiger nut slush, a little bit of mixed seed, and just a couple of tigers in there. I want just enough bait to get the fish sniffing around, and then I've got a really subtle hook bait, and I'm hoping that that's going to get me a really quick bite. Curse you, carp, curse you.
We got down to Elson's yesterday afternoon, and after a quick lap, I wasn't feeling any swims. There was this snaggy bay in the corner that I sort of fancied, but other than that, there was nothing really I felt like going on. This isn't my style of venue too much. I wasn't super confident with this lake, so after a little bit of decision making, I decided that I was going to do the night in that snaggy bay that I fancied. So I quickly got the baiting pole out with my old rigs on just to feel what the bottom was like, make sure it was all okay, and it was okay to present on. So I dropped a little bit of bait. I decided to do the late afternoon into the evening on the zigs in the main bowl, because we've seen a few fish cruising around. So it was one part trying to nick a bite, but another part was because there was so little angling pressure down in that corner, I was thinking that if I've got a few zigs casting around and tight lines going through, these pressured day ticket carp, they might push away and move back into where I'm going to do the night. So there was two sort of parts to my plan there. Nothing happened on the zigs. I moved back round here in the evening and dropped both baits without a problem. Bit of a scuppet squid flake, creamed corn and tiger nut slush, just minimal, but a lot of attraction there, but not too much food because it's still freezing cold, and I just don't think the fish are having it too much. So lots of attraction, a little bit of food items there, hopefully would have nicked me a bite. And it wasn't long after dropping the rigs that I started getting liners on one of the rods. Such an intimate little bay that any fish moving through, it's gonna pick up and transfer to your R3s. Nothing through the night, and then just before sunrise, that amazing sunrise we had this morning, the R3 let out a few bleeps, and after a short but pretty hectic battle in that little snaggy bay, pretty cool old common popped up. Not the dark, amazing commons that Elson's is renowned for. Let's go get him out, take a look at him. This venue is one that I had very little confidence in. It wasn't my style of angling, and when we had the itinerary for the trip, it was one that I thought I'd struggle on, so to catch anything from here was a mega result. And this one, although he's seen better days, proper old gnarly one, I'm very happy with. Don't think the boys have had anything else either. We've got a couple of hours left before we move on to the next venue. Hopefully they get one. I've seen a few show this morning out in the main bowl where sort of Alfie and Alan are fishing, so fingers crossed they get something. If not, this is a nice way to end Elson's day ticket for me.
We waited it out for another few hours, but to no avail. So just got midday, the bows were loaded, and onwards we went on the fourth leg of our trip. A narrow, clear and intimate lake in the heart of Cambridgeshire, with wary carp and the water levels up a few feet. We knew this would be a challenging venue.
Right, Alf, where is everyone else?
Everyone else has started, well, we've just got to the next lake and they've started walking off, but at a rapid rate. I think everyone has in their mind where they think they're going to be, but I've held back for quite a while. I can't even see them now, and they've walked past them all. I'm looking now, there's 20, 25 fish down this end of the lake, and I'm pretty sure they all walk past without noticing them, and the sun's just come out so now they can see them. So instinct says this is going to be a good bet, but we'll see how many people I have to fight to secure position down here. But it's exciting.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Sorry, say that again. Who's going to the very
Alf.
bottom?
Me.
I thought you really wanted to go.
No,
there.
Alf preferred
It's
it.
only just because I see them all down there.
So Alf, you,
Can't
me.
even go down there and cast his deeper at him.
Henry will cast over all of us anyway. Like,
Oh, don't give me
mate,
that.
Listen, I haven't spoken to you. I haven't. Sir,
Look.
The first cast was ridiculous. The second cast you landed short, obviously wasn't quite enough over it, so you reeled it in. Your third cast went right over to the
I just went so fast.
Without adding
Everyone
Blair
was in the
exaggeration,
swim.
mate, you were like across,
Well
you were
past
so
me.
past.
I was fishing in front of the swim opposite me that was free.
Yeah, but Alan
not in your
was
own
in
swim, then?
the middle of that.
Well, then Alan
I
was in
said,
his
just
own
because
swim.
you've got dwarfs, you think you can give it the big one all the time. Like,
Okay, so you're going to go at the end.
I'm
No,
going
I'm
to
going
the
at the
end.
end,
I'm going at the end. Which,
I'm
yeah.
into the section.
Where are you going now?
I'm going next up from the end.
The obvious reeds. There's a few in there, isn't there?
If you fish in the reeds, I cast over all your rods at night and reel them all in for you.
What do you
You
mean?
tried doing it to me twice yesterday.
I didn't.
Everyone saw. Anyway, should we go fishing?
Yeah, let's go
Before we all
fishing.
fall asleep.
And fall
Or
out.
fall out, yeah.
Come on, let's catch a 40-pounder.
We go again.
Oh.
Take 4.
Well, just knocking up a quick selecle of various different bits and pieces. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. This is kind of the venue I've been most looking forward to fish. I know Ollie's is probably the one he's least been looking forward to fish, and that's what's made the trip so far really good. The varying different venues we've been to, but yeah, for me this is a cool one, man. There's some big fish, there's a decent head of fish. It's intimate, small, and we've got a little section of water, and it's about working that. Now I'm going to go around the back bank now and put some of this gear in. There's a little bit of crushed tiger, some whole tiger, some pellet, a little bit of squid flake, and just put a little bit in some edge spots. And then later on tonight I'm going to fish the washing line across to there, so I've got no lines in the water. But now the most important thing I can do is try and catch a carp. You know, I'm on a 4-day, 4-night blank, which is not great at all. So I'm going to take this round there, prime a few spots, but most importantly take some bread and some slicker floaters with me and see if there's any chance of nicking one early off the top.
I made my way around to the other side of the lake, staying as stealthily and quiet as possible, not even taking a cameraman for minimal disturbance. I could see the fins of a few carp breaking the water just inside the reeds, so I tried to tempt them out with some bread. Being so wary, the sound of the bread hitting the water just pushed them further into the reeds. But thankfully for me, this meant I could now creep round to the back and target them in a small clearing where they clearly felt safe for feeding. It didn't take long before I'd finally hooked my first carp of the trip.
Oh, nice. A little bit of fishing on my own terms after a tricky 4 days and 4 nights blanking. The boys hadn't even really got their gear out of the motor, and I was already running round here with a bread bomb, little sawn off, and managed to nick a really early bite. Well, I've wasted absolutely no time whatsoever, so much so that the boys hadn't even really got their gear out of the motor. As I said, I was going to come straight round here, put a little bit of bait in, but most importantly get that sawn off set up, the bread bomb, and try and nick an early bite. And that's what I've done. And after 4 days and 4 nights of blanking, basically, it's so nice to hold a carp, smell a carp, feel a carp, and yeah, a great start for the next leg of this road trip. The big bonus of catching this so early on, it means I'm not going to sit around here now till 8 o'clock. I can go and actually get my stuff sorted out and chill with the boys and have a beer. Mega.
There we have it, what's been doing the do for me so far. Little boosted scubbit squid wafter, slip D, little mesh bag of flake into the baiting pole, along with a helping of tiger nut slush and a little scubbit squid grubbing mix. Let's see if it can do the business at this lake like it has done so far this road trip. There we go.
Well, I'm currently enjoying the first morning on this venue. It's glorious in the sun, but again, last night it was absolutely freezing. Waking up to yet again another frost, which isn't ideal, but when we got here, I think all of the lads got the rods out really inconspicuously, nice and calm. Everything went smoothly. I think they're really spooky fish. You've got to just stay so quiet. And I think we all did that, to be honest. Al managed to nick one really quick off the top on a bit of bread. And then since then, no one's had anything. I had a bream during the night, Al had a bream during the night. I've still got fish down in front of me at the moment, as I saw yesterday. They're just so slowly cruising on the top. So my plan for the day is to pretty much carry on doing what I'm doing. I've got one washing lined over to the far margin. I think that's in a really good area, and I don't plan on touching that at all. And then I'm going to be fishing adjustable zigs because this sunshine is glorious, and where it's been so cold, I can only presume they're going to be in that top third of water because it's just so warm at the minute. In the sun anyway, out the sun it's not. Henry, he's fishing up to a bank of reeds. He's had a bit of a rejig with one of his rods to get it to a different area of the reeds, and Ollie's fishing right and close in the edge, as he usually does. And Alan, as Alan usually does, he's up sticks and moved, and he's walking around trying a bit of everything. I think he's got surface fishing gear, choddies. I even think he's got like a float to see if he gets some feeding in the edge. So he's going to be on the hunt a little bit, keeping everything quiet. So we're covering everything. Like there's across the whole course of the lake, everyone is doing something different in order to see what's going to do the business. So just a matter of time, I hope, until one of us gets a result.
So it was a pretty uneventful night last night. It was really, really cold. The temperature dropped to -3. I wasn't cold myself, but it certainly seemed to put the fish off. I actually haven't seen anything down this end. The sun's up now though, and it's really beautifully warm. I'm enjoying a bit of a sun trap here in this corner. The carp don't appear to be here yet though. I've climbed a couple of trees, can't see anything. I've got a couple of good traps set though, so if anything does wander down this end, fingers crossed I'll be able to snare a bite. At the moment though, it's up to the other lads. You know, Alfie's got a good few fish in front of him. He's fishing zigs and they're up under the surface enjoying the sun. So fingers crossed, one of the other lads will get amongst them.
They kept spooking off the adjustable zigs. I really thought one of them big worm bunches would have tripped them up, but they're just really on edge. So I've crept back round the back bank, brought a choddy rod with me and the sawn off. They don't like a bit of bread over their head either, but they did snaffle a little scopic squid pop up. Fish tight up against the reeds. Yeah, another mega common.
Not long after Alan released his fish, with the carp still milling around near the surface in the evening sun, one of my zig rods finally bent round and I was into a nice fish. The fish had kited through one of my other zig lines, making for a very nervous battle. I was made even more nervous on seeing the fish for the first time, as it was clearly a nice mirror, and I was massively relieved when it finally made its way into my landing net.
Yes! Oh, yes! He's a zig! He's a zig, that's what the problem is, mate. Well done, man.
What are we guessing? 26.8.
27.8. I'd say 27.4.
27.4?
27.4, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah!
Yeah, well done, man.
That'll do.
Lovely
More
car.
than do. Cheers, mate. I think relief is the biggest word to describe this moment.
Well, 5 days into our trip now, and I've lost 2, both to zigs. So when I got the 3rd bite on another zig, I have to say I was playing this very cautiously, and it was absolute carnage. You would have seen. Took out Al's rod, it went through my other zig rods, but this one had my name on it at last. Went in the back of the landing net. Incredible looking carp. I'm just so happy, so happy. I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you. The pressure's off a little bit. Footy's on in a moment. I've got a cold beer in the bivvy. It's a great place to be.
And that brings us to the end of our 36 hours at this lovely little intimate pool. Really enjoyed it, but to say the fishing was difficult would be an understatement. Yeah, I feel blessed to have nicked 2 bites, and obviously Alfie nicked that lovely mirror yesterday, but we've really had to graft for it. They didn't want a bit of bread chucked at them or a bunch of slow sinking maggots, just not interested. Yeah, really difficult. I went into last night leaving one of those washing lines out. You know, it'd been out now for 2 nights, nothing happened. Did replace another one, sacrificed one of those adjustable zigs yesterday evening, put another washing line out. Caught a bream again, so bream on the first night, bream on the second night. Don't get me wrong, they're a big bream, but not ideal. And yeah, all the other little traps that, I know Ollie's got some set, Henry's got some set, nothing's been sprung through the hours of darkness. Just really on edge, really tricky. Pretty cliche of these kind of small water carp venues. Yeah, I'd love to stay a little bit longer, but it's definitely time to get reeled in and packed up now. We were going to do the night on the canal. We might still do the night on the canal, I don't know. A few of the lads have got some other ideas. Had planned to go and fish a day ticket lake tomorrow, might not now. It's part of a road trip like this, you know, you've got to kind of adjust accordingly to people's moods or the way the fish are behaving. So who knows what's going to happen for the rest of our trip, but yeah, time to get out of here and get on to the next venue.
After some deliberation and having not caught many fish so far on the trip, instead of the canal we decided to head to another day ticket complex, this time to Twinash Fisheries, situated on the outskirts of West London. Except for Alfie, none of us had fished here before, so we were excited when we arrived to find a series of lakes with crystal clear water. Immediately we could see lots of carp cruising near the surface, so we wasted no time, grabbing the slicker floaters and heading off trying to tempt one off the top.
Of course, he was first one out. He's going straight for it. Up he comes. Yep, we're in. We are into my first fish off the top of the year, I think, on a day when the weather's finally picked up. We found a little shoal of them in this quiet bay here, looking pretty happy. They were spooking big time over there. They clearly have been caught on floaters before. A little bit of perseverance. And we've managed to hook one. Let's get him in the net. He looks about done. Get in that net, get in that. net, get in that net. Hey, 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 hey. Ah. Yes. Tell you what, after blanking for a couple of nights at that last lake, it feels good to be catching them again. Yes. Here's a little top tip for you when you get to a new venue and it's a nice sunny day like it is today. It's worth going around, doing a couple of laps, bring your floater gear with you. Not only will you see the lake, sort of figure it out a little bit, know what you're going to do for the evening, but you might also get a little bonus fish like this one. Not the biggest, but after a couple of days blanking, very, very welcome. Cool colours on it, old gnarly mirror, off the top, free lined, my favourite way to catch them, mega carp.
With so many carp visibly cruising around on the match lake, I was also into a fish shortly after Henry.
Here he comes. Hey, lovely. Well, there we go. Low double common, lovely way to start at the new venue. I was actually fishing the lake over there to my left where I had a few taken, but they're very finicky, very, very finicky. Had a couple of chances, bit hit and miss, and then the lake just behind me, I saw a group of fish cruise through, literally just dropped a slicker floater straight on its head, bang. Yeah, it was as easy as that. So lovely little lake, lovely little common, but I just want to focus my attention on this one because I think they're a little bit bigger now. So I've had a bit of fun on there. Let's focus on there and see if we can get a bigger one.
While the other lads were fishing the match lake and pit 2, I decided to head to a quieter corner of the complex, targeting pit 7 instead.
So I'm here on the Twinash complex and I've had a little walk and I've ended up around the back of the complex. I think it's pit 2, and I found carp straight away in this first corner. It's been a long time since I've seen a carp, 3 or 4 days now, so I'm really keen to get a bite. So I'm going to go get the gear, get a rod out, try and get a bite quickly. So there's a couple of minor adjustments to make to my end tackle here. I've fished pretty much the same way all week, but there's a couple of slightly different rules. There's no leaders allowed here and barbless hooks. So I've taken my leader off. I'm just going to fish an inline drop-off setup like I normally do, just naked without any leader. And I'll use a couple of big blobs of putty to make sure that the line's sunk down. And I can use my same multi-rig. I'll just switch the barbed hook for a barbless hook, so not too much adjustment to be made there. Hopefully we'll be getting the rod out very soon. So as you walk onto pit 2, there's a quiet little bay here, and there's a couple of nice fish just sat underneath these trees here. So I'm going to drop a rig with the pole, just 4 sections I think it's going to need, just to get it under the tips of those branches. There's nothing too bad overhanging there. Yeah, see if we can get it in without spooking them. Oh, I can see one tails up there.
Headless chicken, understatement. I've been round and round and round and round and casting and chasing with no success. I don't even think I've had an aborted take. They are really, really finicky. I've had to go on 3 different lakes now. I'm back on the first lake. And yeah, I'm not going to be settled until I've caught one. I think Henry's nicked a bite, Alf's nicked a bite, and I am still fishless, which means I'm not setting up base camp until I've at least put one in the net. So yeah, back on the first lake. This is a sort of heavily stocked sort of match venue. Everyone else has gone home now. It's Sunday evening, so no doubt they've gone for their roast dinner. Me on the other hand, chocolate bar for tea for me, because I'm much more interested in catching one of these carp. So without further ado, I'm going to carry on trickling in some slicker floaters and some riser pellets, and hopefully an opportunity will present itself. Had to really wait and pick my moment for one of the better fish to turn up. And it just shows patience. Sometimes it is worth it. I could have easily caught a much smaller common. Mega one. Well, I've certainly done a fair bit of walking for this one. Not really had any opportunity, seen an awful lot of fish. There's carp everywhere. They're just not really up for it. And yeah, come back to the match lake, got a few fish going in the edge, soft hookable floater, 10-pound zig flow, and managed to pick out one of the bigger ones of the bunch. A great way to start the evening. I'm really looking forward to the next sort of, not 24 hours, but 20 odd hours here. It's one hell of a complex.
After landing that mid-double common, I decided to move across to pit 2. As with the match lake, there were tons of carp cruising in the top 3 foot of water, so I immediately opted for an adjustable zig setup. With a 2-rod limit at the venue, I had 1 rod set up on a zig, and then I kept the other rod for floater fishing should an opportunity present itself on the surface.
I, on the other hand, had seen multiple carp patrolling the edge on a shallow bank in a corner of pit 2, as well as some held up in the margin, so I decided to change tactics and fish on the bottom. Shipping my lead to the far margin, I then went round, attached my rig and added some mixed seed, then placed it gently in the edge using a single section of the bushwhacker baiting pole.
Well, I had no chance of getting set up before dark, so rather than rush and try and do that, I'm just going to fish it out. And actually, I'm quite interested to see if now that the air temperatures start getting a little bit cooler, whether it makes them feed more or whether they just drop down lower in the water. At the moment, I'm feeding 2 different lines, this swim and the next swim down, just at sort of short catapult range. There's been the odd fish taken further down into that piece of water there. Yeah, it's going to be dark in sort of 45 minutes, so I'm just going to fish it out now, float fish it till it gets dark, and then make a final decision of where I'm going to do tonight.
Oh, just been feeding mixes all day, and they've been very, very sheepish, and just a single mixer, just patiently, ever so patiently. Hey, that took a lot of hard work. And then yeah, single soft hookable floater, nothing else out there. There was just a few taken so sheepishly, and just out of nowhere I just cast out, just couldn't stop staring at it, see a little swirl, bang, in the net. Result, worked hard for that one, wasn't as easy as on the other lake, but yeah, mega. Well, there we go. This one, it's got to be £20, I reckon. Might give him a quick weigh after this, but this was perseverance on the top. Had one on the match pit as soon as we got here. I'm loving this venue. So yeah, one off the match pit, one at Lake 2. Took a while. They're very, very cagey, but the sun's going down, and that's often when you find them that, well, they're their most vulnerable. So yeah, yes, mate. Yeah. So yeah, made up with that one.
With the light fading fast and having just seen Alfie catch one in the swim opposite, I persevered with the slicker floaters and riser with the hope of one final carp that day.
Ollie would say fool's gold and I'll make him right, but it is well rewarding when you really have to graft for them. It's definitely not floater clubbing season yet, so yeah. Oh, what an amazing start at Twinash. It's been anything but easy, but for sure the rewards are there to be had. Proper persevered for this one. Soft hookable floater on a little light controller, 10-pound zig flow, little size 10 floater claw. Mwah, it all come good. The air temperature started to drop. They did feed a little bit more confidently. And yeah, I don't think there's another chance now. So without further ado, I'm gonna actually go and get myself sorted for the night. Probably fish the match lake. And I'll catch up with you in the morning, hopefully, with some more amazing carp to report.
I had to wait a little bit longer than I'd hoped for my first bite, but I got one in the net. I've got the rod straight back out there because it's right prime middle of feeding time. If I hadn't caught one, I would have been up shortly and I would have been looking around the lake for any other fish feeding in the edge, but we've got a nice one in the net, so I don't have to do anything. We'll have a cup of coffee, eh?
He didn't fight very hard, but he was very angry when he went in the net. I had to wait a little bit longer than I'd hoped for a bite, but at first light this morning, pulled up tight, and it's a real nice one. Beautiful slate grey common, approaching 25 pounds. Yeah, really good way to start the day. Line will just stop now though, so I think I'll be putting the gear on the barra and have a little wander around, see if I can find anything on the spots that I baited yesterday. But yeah, really, really nice carp. Lovely way to start the day.
And the bigger of the two, again taken on a slip D, culture look bait, exactly the same spot, just shipped it out there with a baiting pole, nice and simple fishing. How about that? A lovely match lake linear, proper mega one, and I'm really made up with it, to be fair. How about that, Dan? You'd take that, wouldn't you, mate?
Well, he's almost a spitting image of the one that I caught yesterday evening, but a real nice one again. Just before first light, this one on the adjustable zigs. I think they must have moved up in that water column. I was fishing one about 2 foot under the surface, and yeah, it erupted. It's always good fun when you got that sort of that sliding presentation. The bites are always great, and yeah, this character was in the end, gave a good account for himself. And again, really nice to see him in the back of the landing net. It's a fantastic place, lovely complex, fish number 3. And we've got the best part of the day today before we head to our final venue of the road trip. So yeah, lovely. I couldn't believe it coming. You know, when I've been here before and I knew this one was clear, but the fact that the match pit is gin clear with cabbages and
so
things like that, and they call it the match pit. I think they should.
Get this is why they don't need to eat angler's bait. I showed the boys this morning. I lifted my sack out. I said, "What's that?" I said to you, didn't I, Barner? Antitone. All over my sack, stuck to it, was caddises that have crawled onto it at night and like clung onto it. So all the caddis cases are all over my sack. And then if you look carefully over, there's water louse and shrimp and
rich.
It's crawling. It's absolutely crawling. Mega venue.
That's why the zig worked.
It's like all the venues around there.
You two?
I'm staying put with the zigs just under the surface because I think they're going to come right up there. Yeah, feed. Yeah, 100%. Like the only I haven't seen them yet. I think they just got to slowly come up in a minute. Like yesterday they were all within the top foot of water.
I don't think they're quite in my margin yet either, just because the sun's not hitting 100%. But I think.
What's the time? I mean, 10
I'm
past
get
10.
Going anyway, lads, because this gentleman here is moving or going home. Can you see?
Yeah.
And I really want to fish that margin over there. I wanted to fish that yesterday. I wanted to fish it last night, but I just didn't. Even though he was so polite, he was like, "Of course you can. I'm not fishing down there." I just didn't feel like I could. And with him going, I'm going to quickly try and nick one out of the match pit, and then I'm going to head up there for you.
I don't blame you, mate. I've seen them there this morning.
Thank you for breakfast. Good luck.
Cheers.
See you later, boys.
And you, mate, in a bit.
Let's go catch some carp.
As predicted, as soon as the sun hit the lake, the carp returned to the surface like the day before. I headed to the van to get ready for a big day of running about and chasing them, either on the bottom or off the top. First up, I prepared the slicker floaters, boosting them with some liquid bait soak. Following that, I mixed up some riser pellets, glazed with spod syrup and dusted off with the stick mix. And finally, my go-to mix of whole squid boilies, flake pellet and a dash of spod syrup for the bottom.
That's it, the barrow's all loaded up. Couple of zig rods, floater rod, stalking rod. I've got my bucket of squid flake in here for priming some spots in the edge, my baiting pouch full of slicker floaters, my unhooking mat importantly already set up, got my recon rucksack, my unhooking mat, front pannier, food, some bread, plenty of drinks, and then underneath the barrows there's a couple of bags at the front and then one bag at the back. I've got some sweet corn, some maggots, some worms, my weigh sling, my scales, wishful thinking, we catch an absolute banger. And yeah, I'm just going to reel these last two sawn-offs on, lay them on there, using the shoulder strap it all down, and that's it. We're going to go and do some miles with a Trax Barrow on missions.
As soon as I'd reached pit 2, I could see a group of carp close into the bank, so out the floater gear came, and once again in went the slicker floaters.
Yeah.
As I netted my fish, in the swim next door, Alfie had also managed to hook a much better one off the top.
Yes, get in. Happy day. Oh, when you can see them like 6 foot under and you know it's half decent one.
What a place. What a start to the middle of the morning. Alfie and I went for a wander with the floater rods, got a few fish uptaken. Before that, I've primed a few spots in the edge. Yeah, really feel on it today, and the weather's absolutely glorious. Anyway, got an opportunity on the floater, little floater claw, soft hookable floater, 10 pound zig flow, and yeah, caught this stunning little common. Alfie on the other hand, he's had one twice as big at least. Another amazing carp. Yeah, gonna keep on grafting. There's definitely more opportunities to be had today. Sick.
Don't do that. Don't do
32.6, bro.
32.6. Well, what can I say about that? My new surface caught PB, £32.6. Oh, well, I couldn't have imagined anything like this to happen on this trip. Soft hookable floater, size 12 floater claw, barbless, always makes it a little bit hairy, but it held strong. And the worst thing was I knew what I was attached to because the water's so clear. But yeah, when that went over the landing net, God, I've been grinning ear to ear for the past 10 minutes, so I'm just blown away. Just look at him, incredible fish. I'm so happy.
While Alan and Alfie had been smashing it up on pit 2, over on pit 7 I'd had a slow and frustrating day. Despite several attempts with bread at fish on the surface, they simply weren't interested. With my barrow loaded and ready to head off to our final venue, I spotted 2 carp in an edge spot I'd placed bait in earlier in the day. Using just a single 6-foot sawn off, I stealthily poled my rig onto the clear spot that I could see down the margin, and I didn't have long to wait before the carp returned to investigate my bait.
Oh, hold on, there's one right over the spot. I think he's come off. No, he's still here. Nice mirror, man. Yes. Yes. Oh. Oh. That was a proper hairy battle. I'd literally loaded the gear on the barrow because it's just about time to leave. But I had one little corner that I wanted to try. I've seen a few fish drifting in and out of there. So yeah, pulled a bait into the corner and it must have taken, what, 5 minutes? No longer than 5 minutes, and it's a really nice mirror. And that's just the way I love to catch them. It's not been the easiest trip to Twinash for me. I've had a really nice one this morning, but the fish have been playing hard to get. So yeah, this feels really rewarding. Woo, yes. Well, a lovely long mirror to end my trip on pit 7. Lovely little lake, some really nice carp. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
With the evening approaching and a 2-hour drive ahead of us to the final venue, it was time to say goodbye to Twinash. Just before leaving, I managed another small mirror off the top from the match lake, and true to form, Alfie at the last minute was once again the man of the hour.
What a beautiful way to end 24 hours at Twinash Fishery. The fact that we weren't even planning to come here in the first place just makes it all that more special. I've absolutely loved this complex. 5 fish in 24 hours, a 30, a couple of 20s and a couple of doubles. What more could you ask for? But for now, we're on to the finale, the final venue of the road trip. Down to the Carp Syndicate. I'm going to get all the gear packed away. I know all the boys are looking forward to this. And fingers crossed, we're going to end it with a real chunk. 26, 4? 26.
That'll do.
Having never originally planned to visit Twinash, we left feeling like it was a great decision. Our confidence was high going into the final leg of the trip. We arrived at our venue on dusk, but it was well after dark by the time we'd got the rods out.
Good morning, and here we are at our final venue, the Carp Syndicate in Crowborough, and this really is a special place. If you wanted to end the trip on a high like we do, this is the place to do it. There's so many big carp in here, and there's a really good chance that any bite you get is a really special fish. The venue is a syndicate complex and it comprises of 3 lakes. The main lake, Oak Lake, is the one that's full of big carp where they don't get themselves up easily, but if you get a bite, there's a very good chance it is a bit of a chunk. Myself, Alfie and Oli are going to be focusing on here, whereas Alan's going to go on the other 2 lakes. Some really nice carp in those too, so I'm sure he's got a very good chance of catching something very special. The trip so far for me, although it started fairly well, I was catching a few fish, especially when no one else was. I thought I was nicking a few bites and angling quite well. Since then, it's gone a bit downhill, especially yesterday at Twinash when Alf and Alan were really smashing it up, and I was sort of a little bit left behind. I made a few decisions that I wasn't happy with looking back now. I think I made a few mistakes, so I'm hoping that this is the place where I can redeem myself. I have been here before. It's a very special place for me. It's where I caught my UK PB, so if there's anywhere I can redeem myself, I'm hoping it's here. This venue really is just quite unbelievable. It's in the middle of some rolling countryside. You go down this long track to get here. You can only hear wildlife and birds and deer when you get down here. Late last night, we managed to get the rods out in under the cover of darkness, and we weren't really expecting anything. It was sort of going to be a case of getting the rods out as best we could, and then hoping that in the morning when the sun came out, we'd reposition them, we'd see a few fish and we'd act from there. However, I did get a bite in the early hours of the morning, and I did manage to land it, and yeah, it was a decent one, so we're going to get that out now and take a look at it. And a lovely way to start the session at our final venue. A few bleeps in the night, pulled up to it, came in really easily, thought it was a bream to start with, and then under the rod tip it fought like a bit of a maniac. Thought it was going to be a little bit bigger at 28 pounds. This mega Lynn is the perfect way to start this morning. Had a few show in the night, and I'm really feeling confident that there's a few more bites between myself, Alf and Oli. I'm sure Alan's going to catch a few as well, so this looks like it could be the place to end the trip on a massive high.
Oh, I woke up this morning with that not so nice feeling of it's all coming to an end rather soon. Yeah, looked out of the hide, mega morning, just white mist everywhere, sun started to burn it through, and that realisation of time to go back to work, back to the real world, was drawing in on me. But yeah, got 24 hours left, and while the boys all tackle the big Carp Lake, Oak, I'm going to flip between these 2 other lakes here. This is Mine Pit, and I'm not sure what the other one's called. The Top Lake, we'll call it for reference, and just see if I can nick a last couple of bites. But I'll be a lot happier if Henry or Alfie caught a real big one. So that's going to be my day, wandering between the 2 lakes. I'm going to go and stick some squid flake and sweet corn up in the Top Lake, jump out in the waders, have a wade around in the real shallow areas, and prime a few spots. And then on this little gem here, I'm going to hopefully do a little bit of float fishing and maybe even get the lift float out and try and catch a few that way. It's all about enjoying that last 24 hours. About a metre away from him now, drifting pretty much straight onto his nose. Now he's moved again.
Not happy with last night then, Alf? Or?
Nah, getting here on dark, it's mad because the islands look so much further away at night than they do this morning, and now I can see where I was poking the baiting pole into, and I was so close to the island. I didn't even feel much of a drop. I could have been fishing in 6 inches of water for all I know. So I've come off a little bit this morning. Seen one fish just in front of me, sort of mid-water. So that's where I'm about to put a rod. And now it feels like we can really give it a good go now the sun's up and you can see everything. And I'm looking forward to today. Absolutely brilliant. I don't want it to end. 10 days in and I just don't want it to end. All right, I'm just going to change this rod. Just give it a little bit longer of a leader section, make sure everything's pinned down because they're a bit wary, and yeah, go from there. So that'll drop down out the baiting pole. I feel it on a tight line, that'll go down. That'll be up high, a little bit of foam, and then it'll all come down to critically balanced like that with a wafter. Only a tiny little bit of bait. Hopefully this one will fly up into their mouth first, being the most neutrally balanced, and then you have a little bit of scope squid flake, a little few 12 millers, and a little bit of rock salt to try and draw them in. Hopefully next time you see that, it's hanging out the mouth of a carp. Please, please. I was literally just going to use the toilet while the boys stayed by my rods, and one has just gone. Literally as I just walked down the bank. Madness. I'm attached to a Carp syndicate carp, which is always nervous because you know what resides in here.
You're just about to get the floater gear, weren't you?
I was literally just about to get the floater gear because I just started seeing one on the top and the rod was away.
The lake of Lens. There we go. Well done, mate.
Good netting, good skills, mate.
And you?
£30, 8 ounce. Okay. £30, 8. Fantastic. Well, it always happens when you least expect it. 30 number 2 of the trip, had a £30 common, and now this incredible £30 linear. Middle part of the day, the sun's at its highest, it's roasting hot, you just wouldn't have thought I would have got a bite. But yeah, I was just going back to the van to get some floaters because I see a few cruising, and the middle rod was away and this was on the end. What an incredible looking carp. This is one of many incredible carp that reside in here, and yeah, again, I'm just so super happy this trip is going more to plan than I could ever have imagined. Mate, make sure you're nice and strong. Look at that. It's almost as if he knew he was ready to go.
At my end of the lake, there were loads of fish moving about in the upper layers. Given that the water close in front of me near the dam wall was 15 feet deep, I didn't expect any fish to have their heads down there. Having leaded about earlier, I used the baiting pole to drop 2 rigs on the corner of each island where I knew the water was shallow, and I dropped a third tight to the rope.
Having had no success chasing them with bread on mine pit, I spent the afternoon up on the top lake fishing a combination of solid bags and scopic squid hard-ons with PVA bags to protect the hook point. Despite trying all afternoon, my luck never changed. With only a few hours left of the day, I thought my chances were best over on mine pit. So I moved back, placed a Ronnie claw, and thankfully I finally managed to hook one.
Just popped up. Thanks, bro. Reoccurring theme here. Another very, very difficult day. Henry and Alfie nicked a bite each, but other than that, it's been pretty chilled. The fish have been very lethargic, not up for munching, and try as I might chasing them between the 2 lakes. Various different tactics from surface to setting little traps. It has been difficult. In the end, I couldn't take it any longer. I put a citrus pop up on a Ronnie claw, shipped it out very, very tight to the root balls on the island, and yeah, it didn't take long to get a bite. I did really want to nick one off the surface though. But if this is the end of the day, that'll do me. As I say, it's been very tricky, and I look forward to kicking back with the lads now. We're gonna have some really nice food, a few beers, stick the fire pit on, and celebrate our final night of an amazing road trip.
Just replace this rod right tight to the island, tight to the reeds where I've seen them smashing into the reeds, and it's just rattled off. Not a bad one, not a giant, but oh, it's so cross, this one. And again, that's another one to the multi-rig, fished over the top of a small amount of particle. So most people maybe wouldn't use a pop-up over particle, but I find it works really, really well. Oh, come on. Come on then. Oh. Cheers, lads. Long time coming, that one. There goes the old multi-rig. With the business.
26. Bang on, yeah, 26.
Our closest. You buy the beers. Well, that's a great way to cap off the day. Lovely mirror from the one ship, really tight to the island reeds, which I've been watching knocking all afternoon. Eventually, this one slipped up. A little multi-rig over a little handful of seed. Time to get this one back, go and have a barbie with the lads. Finish off the week in style.
I've just spilled all my beer. I just had a screamer. Absolute screamer. I'm knackered. I was literally just looking at old fish. Yeah, and the right hander has just melted off. Luckily, he didn't make it into the reeds. And yeah, I'm attached to another one.
Well, it's that time of evening where they start to get their heads down. Ollie's literally just had a bite. I was around there having a look at his, just getting photos of it. And then, as that happened, my rod screamed into life. Luckily enough, I'm only around the corner, so I managed to get on it in plenty of time. And yeah, it's this chunky little character, which by the lake standards is actually much smaller than average. I'm not complaining by any means, but yeah, we're all in the 20s club, other than that 30 that I had a little bit earlier. So one of the big ones has got to be due. We've got tonight into tomorrow morning, and I've got a sneaky suspicion that between me, Ol, Henry, and even Alan, there could be a chance of a right lump before we go home. See you, mate. Oh, what a trip this is turning out to be. How are you, lad? Never had venison.
Well, I think I'm going to finish this beer, lads, and I'm going to get an early night. First one of the 10-day trip, to be fair. What are you doing, sitting up?
I'm going to finish this beer and then I'm going to have another one.
Yeah.
Good lad, you deserve it.
Yeah. We've all had a nice few carp, haven't we? Yeah. And we're talking as if it's over. Still got one night left.
Tonight is the night. Big fish last night. You two, one of you two is catching an absolute monster tonight.
Just don't really know what to say if I'm completely honest with you. The lake has given up one of its big ones, and I must have fallen back to sleep last night after having that fish with my
with my face just smiling. I think I woke up like this morning. Just, unbelievable. The sun's just coming up over the hills now and I'm just so happy. Let's get it out, let's get it on the mat and let's show it to you because it is one huge fish.
Got it?
Are you happy?
Yeah, mate, let's go.
Well, I can't quite believe it. I had a sneaky suspicion that one of us was going to hook into one of the lake's gems and one of the big girls has slipped up. 43 pound, 14 ounce of incredible carp syndicate mirror. And to end the trip in this style has just been absolutely fantastic. The trip has been amazing. I've spent some quality time with some brilliant friends, and not only that, I've also been able to see the way that they angle, so I felt like I've learnt loads as well. And yeah, you couldn't have scripted a better ending, I don't think. This has blown me away. I'm going to remember this trip for the rest of my life. Come on, lads, get in. Come on. How about that for a week, lads?
Well done, Alf.
It's been absolutely amazing, and yeah.
We'll have to do it all again another time.
Yeah, next week. We'll see what I'm up to next week. Thank you, girl. Look at the size of it.